You have a wonderful story of how you've overcome dyslexia in developing this course. So
hmm
before we get into the course in earnest, I want to go to your beginnings. Take me
hmm
back to your beginnings when you discovered that you had dyslexia and that it was something you needed to overcome. What was the beginnings of this?
It was when I was entering third grade. I was already held back after kindergarten, and then they put me in special ed. They said it wasn't a punishment. It was. I remember in fifth grade, I had two relatives on the Mayflower, the religious leader and the biggest malcontent of the entire colony. And the normal kids got to do this huge project, which I couldn't do because I was dyslexic. So I finally forced my way out through my mother. We had a school board member. His son was a year younger than me. And we got our Eagle Scouts at the same time. He said I can do one class. He got me out for history, and I proceeded with the inability to read or write. I could force myself to read a little bit. I got perfect hundreds on like every test they gave me, except one. I got one wrong. I reversed the B for a D. I got the history award. Then I forced myself out of everything and just pressing through. I had an 86.5 average my first quarter, 95.5 my fourth quarter of high school, my freshman year as fourth in my class. And then I just kept pressing. I went to college after college, took multiple majors until I did the New York State Assembly internship in '97. And I showed up with a first grade reading and writing level. They accommodated me like you couldn't believe. The accommodations were so extreme. This went right to the speaker's office. That when I went back to SUNY Center at Buffalo, they decided, oh, their political science department didn't like the accommodation. So instead of 15 credits of A minus, I got 15 credits of F.
Wow.
Flunked me. So I decided to force myself to learn to read and write in grad school. My professors advised that I go to law school, where you read and write more than anybody because I like politics. So I go in, it's my second case. They call on me. And what happens in the first week of law school? Nobody knows what the heck's going on. They can't answer it. They keep asking you questions that you can't answer to embarrass you publicly until you eventually adopt. Didn't happen to me. The professor asked me questions. I answered them exactly correctly. And then I started going after him, which kind of shocked. We're going back and forth 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. He threw up his arms and said, Russell, in the interest of time, I have to move on to the next case. I learned to read within a month. I learned to write within a couple of years. Then my first program, after working years with the New York State Education Department, I got funding from the New York State Senate. We took a bunch of super motivated dyslexic high school juniors and seniors. I want everybody to know these were super motivated kids, genius intelligent level. Okay. Best teacher, one class period a day for the school year. They went from middle school writing to average of entering graduate students in 1 year, one class period, cost New York State less than $900. All went on to college, all graduated. GPAs of 2.5 to 3.6. We compared to the best dyslexic transfer college at the time, Landmark College. We were 3x as successful for less than 1% of the cost. We were under $900. They were over 100 grand. And that's how I got started doing this.
So who's been your inspiration? Who's been that heroic force that's allowed you to do this wonderful work?
His name was Professor James Holmes. He was one of the top leading 1% macroeconomic professors in the world. His story, he didn't learn to read or write until he was in fifth grade. There's no chance of him going to college until he entered a national science competition his junior year, and he got third place in the country, which allowed him to go to college. And President's University hooked him up with the second leading economist of the 20th century, which allowed him to go to the premier economic PhD program and got the top scholarship. And what got me is he said he stopped counting the rewrites of his dissertation at 100. Yeah. He has co-authors now.
Yeah.
He does the work, they do the writing, their name goes on it.
Yeah. So when did you decide that you were going to give back and help people get over dyslexia? You've created this course and
Mhm.
you could have easily just moved on into the sunset and done other things. But what made you feel like you wanted to go after this mission of helping others overcome it as well?
When they flunked me with 15 credits of F for the state assembly, you have to understand that's still on my record 29 years later. Buffalo Department of Political Science, I've talked on over 300 podcasts and I told this story. How do you like me now?
Yeah.
It's still there. It just people can't believe it. So what I did is that was when I decided to do it, and that's why when I walked in, remember, I walked into the belly of the beast. I went to freaking law school, okay, where the reading is it's the hardest thing out there. All right, and then I just dominated it from the first go. And that's when I found out that being dyslexic in graduate school is really, really unfair.
So talk to me about getting to the point where you were going to make this course and how
Mhm.
you went through the process.
The problem that we ran into when I talked to parents is they would come to me and say, my kid's writing a bunch of randomly placed misspelled words. We don't even know where to start. And then the teachers came to me, and I found this interesting. They said, we have kids who can't even write a basic body paragraph. I mean, nothing. I said, what do you need from me so you can work with these kids? I'm talking about their gen ed, your typical fifth grade teacher. What do you need from me? And they said, I need a 5 paragraph essay. And I said, you don't get that. But I can show you how to do a body paragraph. And if they can do one, they can do three. Then if they can do three with decent spelling and decent grammar and correct spelling, can you do the thesis statement and conclusion? They said yes. So that's what we show people. So to give you an example, I'm coming out with a book pretty soon called "If You Write, You Can Read." My co-author is Evelyn Whiteface. She was on the New York State Dyslexia Task Force to redo the entire K through 5 elementary school. And my part is, my example is a mother named Kimberly. Kimberly, I think, just represents a lot of moms. She's a very religious homeschooling mom who has just a few college classes. She has 5 kids, 4 are gen ed, and we met on December 27th of 2024. Just a few weeks before that, she spent $700 and had the state of Ohio test her kids. Her 4 gen ed kids are reading brilliantly with traditional methods. But her son, Reed, who was 10 years old, was doing horribly wrong. It was heartbreaking to her. She just was so concerned about him. He was reading at the 11th percentile, writing at the 4th percentile at 10 in 5th grade. So I said, okay, don't worry, we can show you how to fix this. Most parents, you need to understand, will do 10 to 15-minute sessions, 2, maybe 4 times a week, some weeks not at all. Kimberly, because she homeschooled, had more time. So just keep that into consideration. She worked with Reed for an hour and a half a week on this, 3 half-hour sessions. I worked with her for half an hour a week. This was the inspiration for the course for 8 months. Over the summertime, Reed's friends came to him and said, Reed, we want you in public school to be with us socially. That's the key part. So, beginning of August of 2025, let's call it 8.5 months later, Reed was tested in a public school. Now, here's the thing he's only in public school because he wants to be with his friends in class. But he was at the 11th percentile and 4th percentile. Even if Kimberly tripled that, he would still be in special ed, away from his friends, unhappy kid. He would have dropped out. That didn't happen. His reading went from the 11th percentile to the 64th.
Wow.
His writing went from the 4th percentile to the 65th. His grammar, I can't believe this one, jumped to the 97th percentile.
Wow.
Okay, that was in August. Where was he in May of 26? He's in gen ed classes with his friends, getting mostly A's and B's. Kimberly did what every parent dreams about in less than 9 months. That's how powerful this is.
So the thing about getting to that place, overcoming these obstacles, is that your human brain has to unlock chambers that are either closed up or
Mhm.
scrambled. How does this program unscramble, give them the confidence? Because there's a lot of dominoes, and I would imagine that are getting knocked over in this process that are unlocking those synapses and dendrites to fire in the right way. What is your course doing to get them to that point where they flick that first domino and they start running?
Do you want to see if you could pick out what the strategy is from a simple picture that completely confuses the PhDs in my field?
Sure.
Okay. Well, let's take a look at this. This is the science. It's in a
Yeah.
book called Overcoming Dyslexia by Dr. Shelley Saywitz from Yale. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you see how the back part of the typical brain has this massive neural activity?
Yeah.
The back part of the dyslexics has next to nothing.
Yeah.
The front part of the dyslexic brain's 2.5 times overactive.
Absolutely.
Okay. What's the strategy to make this work? Should we use the back part of the dyslexic brain for dyslexics?
Well, probably. I mean, I would imagine.
There's
Yeah.
nothing going on back here. Should we use nothing?
No, we should be using something.
Yeah, the front part of the brain, which is 2.5 times overactive.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
But they don't want to, the schools don't want to do that because it's not like they're trying to be hard on dyslexics. But the back part of the brain, we got essentially next to nothing going on. This is the
Yeah.
gen ed part of the brain.
Sure.
This is K through the first 2 years of college, essentially. And if you go to any gen ed kid with 100 or more IQ, if they do two things, if they study properly, they set up a real study schedule, and they work really hard, they're going to be successful to really successful. It's those two things. That's what they're used to. A dyslexic, what they're teaching, it doesn't work.
Right.
So we got to go to the front part of the brain, and Yale tells us what that is. It's word analysis followed by articulation. We have 2.5 times the neural activity. Well, that's the first insight that we have. So everything that we teach, from the most basic sentences to the most advanced material, the most advanced student I'm working with now is Grayson. He's in the 99th percentile for math and science. He wants to get his PhD, work for NASA to terraform Mars.
Wow.
Okay. His father's teaching him really advanced body paragraphs, and we're going to eventually show him how to do a problem statement, which the head of Google's AI research program said they don't know how to teach their people how to do a correct policy, a correct problem statement, where if you come up with a good question, you answer it, it's a real change, it's a real advancement. They have trouble with that. We're showing that to Grayson. How old do you think Grayson is?
15?
This is PhD level stuff.
I mean, let's say 18, 19.
Grayson's 10.
Wow. I was good before with 15. I didn't want to go too low.
So that's how far we take students through.
Wow.
All right. So when we're doing word analysis, so this works for gen ed students as well. So we show them word analysis followed by articulation. That's the base. But before we can even get them to do anything, this is the biggest issue people run into. We have to focus during the intervention period on the kid's speciality. To give you a quick example, the most successful kid I ever worked with, I will never see this again. This was a one-off edge case. Her name was Casey. She comes from a lower middle class family in the Midwestern United States. So there's no silver spoon here. She was interested. She was 10 years old when we started. At the end of fifth grade, she turned 11 over the summertime. She was interested in Theodore Roosevelt. So I assigned her this book, The Rise of Theodore Roosevelt, all 900 pages. This is 10th grade to first year college level.
Yeah.
Casey was reading at the second grade level. She went up to her room for 3 hours a night for the next 6 months, most of the days during the summertime. Her choice, nobody told her to do this. At the end of that point, you could flip it to this random page, point to a random word, and she would tell you that exact definition perfectly. She jumped 8 grade levels in 6 months, and I worked with her for 15 minutes a week. This is not typical. This was an edge case, but that's not the point. The point is when we moved from a book that she loved to one she hated, her motivation dropped by 50%. Most kids will drop 75 to 90. That's why you're failing with what you're doing. You're outside that speciality. This works for ADD and ADHD as well. So when we were working with Reed, he was interested in X-Men. So we had to go to graphic novels, and I had to tell Kimberly, you have to pre-read these novels to make sure they fit with your family sensibility. Some were good, other ones she said, oh my goodness, no. She had to pre-check them. Okay. So we're in the speciality. The other thing is, if you ask a gen ed student, let's say a high school kid, what effect did Martin Luther King's famous I Have a Dream speech have in the American Civil Rights Movement in the 1960s? They can go write the paper. They love it. Big picture, go into details.
Yep.
But for a dyslexic, it's like grabbing fog. We don't know what to do. So what we have to do is if you ask a dyslexic in their speciality, do you have a bunch of ideas flying around your head at light speed but with little to no organization? They're going to say yes. So we have to force the dyslexic brain to organize itself by using writing as a measurable output. What's that in English? Well, we start off at a very specific point and then go out. So we would ask, what personally compelled Martin Luther King to want to give his famous speech? Now the dyslexic knows exactly what to do. We go to his biography. The speech was at this time period. What's going on around that time? There's the answer. That answer will get us another question, which gives us an answer, which gives us a question, which gives us an answer. That forces the dyslexic brain to organize itself by using writing as a measurable output. And then we do word analysis followed by articulation. That is what made Reed so successful.
So what you're doing is obviously the antithesis to what the education system's doing. You've come up with
Exact
a
opposite.
so do you think the education system's ever going to adopt this? There's ever going to be a way that they're going to adapt and look at what you're doing and use that as a benchmark?
Forget it. I mean, to be honest, New York State just tried to redo this. They can't afford it. Evelyn was on, she's a super teacher. She's on the dyslexia task force. We can show teachers how to do this in 6 hours. Okay. We were sitting down with a New York State elected official who called up a superintendent in his district because we had two board members of a New York State non for profit in there. And they asked, how could this wealthy school not do things for generations? I mean, we're talking wealthy here. And so we're supposed to have this big meeting with the district set up by their elected official. And then it went to online instead of in person. And then it was like two people and they just blew Evelyn off. It's not happening because again, it's not like they're trying to be difficult, but we're asking them to use a part of the brain that is different than what they're used to. It's completely different. So what I'm just telling parents is it's just easier to do it yourself. Most parents do 10 to 15-minute sessions. Most parents will do 2 to 4 times a week. Okay. And there'll be weeks where you do nothing. All right. And we show you how to be successful. Kimberly solved hers in 8 months. Some parents are with us for a couple of years, but the main thing is we show you how to get through this. And parents ask, well, I want to make sure my kid's successful. Well, I'll give you a little hint. Grayson is reading. Remember, he's 10. He's reading at the high school senior level. His content's third year college. We are literally going to finish his his project, where he's doing a thesis statement, okay, problem statement. The second level of the craft of research, which shows people how to do their doctoral dissertation. Exactly the problem that Google has trouble teaching their employees. Then I met a board member from one of our top 10 technical universities. And when Grayson's ready, we're going to have him connect with a senior professor, and that'll probably get him into, you know, let's just call it a school everybody knows is our best technical university. So that's a gen ed kid. That's this was designed for dyslexics. That's how far we can show you to go if you want to.
What's your ultimate dream with this course? What's your ultimate vision? You've obviously been successful. You've had
Mhm.
dynamic examples of things successfully working out, but what are you ultimately hoping happens with your course?
My ultimate hope is that we can help parents actually solve this problem. The problem is if you go to like the Gowl School, which is celebrating its 100th anniversary, and you get the scholarship, it's 60 grand a year. Otherwise, it's 86. They need that kid from fifth grade to the end of high school. And it's everything solved beautifully. Most parents can't afford that. All right. My competition, the Barton system's $500 a month because things are this thick. One of their course one is thicker than my entire process.
Wow.
Okay. So the parents find that way too hard. So they hire a tutor. It's $500 a month typically. And that just does reading through 10th grade, 11th grade. Mine, if you write, you can read it. If you can write a word properly, you can read it. And it's just so much easier. My goal is to solve the problem, but also what scares me is artificial intelligence. I am one of those people when ChatGPT came out with its $200 a month pro plan in December 24, I bought it that day. And as a business owner, the things I used to handle to junior employees, I just have the AI do it now. What you need to understand, no matter what happens to AI, you have to know what looks good, and if it doesn't look good, how to fix it. And if you know the craft of research, this book that came out 36 years ago, I'm sorry, 31 years ago, and it sold over 1 million copies. If you know that process, we teach you the first two parts. If you can do that, you can learn AI really fast and be very successful. I want my kids to be able to be successful and be able to apply this. So no matter how evolved AI gets, they can use it, they can function with it, they can get those high paying jobs. That's one of the main things I want. I want them economically viable.
So, for anybody that's tuned into this, they see the word dyslexia, they grab onto what you're saying, and there's a chance for you right now to give the ultimate elevator pitch for them to buy your course and to change their lives, their kids' lives. This is a sea
Mhm.
change moment. What do you tell them right now?
What I tell them is we're going to show you how to teach your kids to pick a book in their speciality, their area of extreme interest and ability. So they're interested. We're going to show you how to work with them, so how the brain actually works, not the general to the specific, but the specific to the general. And we're going to show you how to use that overactive front part of the brain, which according to Yale is 2.5 times more active, which is word analysis followed by articulation. And just so you know, the teacher of our program, we just don't give you a course. Her name is Angela. She's a certified elementary school teacher with a 2 year master's degree and 11 years of experience. And now she's a homeschooling. She homeschools her kids. She's there each week for an hour to answer your question. She has taken both her dyslexic son and her gen ed super STEM kid son through these courses.
So let's spell it out as easy as possible for anybody out there.
Mhm.
Dyslexiaclasses.com. Is that the best place to go to get all of this taken care of?
The best place to go is to go to skool.com. Okay. And just look up dyslexia classes, and we have a course there for parents. Click on that, and that's the best place to join us.
Okay, wonderful. Russell, this has been so good. This is the second time around that we've spoken. Thank you so much for laying this out clearly. You're changing lives. You're doing wonderful work. Thank you, sir. It's been an honor to be able to talk to you about this, and I can't wait to get it out into the world.
Thanks for having me.
You bet.